One insult. 1 second. And a man's entire world collapsed inside that courtroom. You're nothing but a joke. The words detonated across the Providence courtroom like a bomb. David Mitchell's face burned red with rage as he pointed at the bench where Judge Frank Caprio sat. The bailiff's hand instinctively moved toward his belt. The court stenographer froze mid-sentence. Every person in the room felt it instantly. Something irreversible had just happened. Judge Caprio didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't even move. His hands remained calmly folded on the oak bench. Only a subtle tightening around his eyes betrayed what longtime courtroom observers immediately recognized. The judge, known worldwide for compassion, mercy, and forgiveness, was about to respond in a way no one there had ever seen. But how did David Mitchell reach this moment? Just 20 minutes earlier, the morning had begun like any other in courtroom 2A. Judge Frank Caprio took his seat promptly at 9 a.m., adjusting the small Italian flag pin on his robe, a gift from his late father. The docket listed 16 routine cases, parking tickets, minor traffic violations, nothing unusual. Case number 7 caught his attention. David Mitchell. Red light violation. Intersection of Westminster and Union. Camera footage. Clear violation. Still, something in the file made Caprio pause. Mitchell entered the courtroom carrying hostility like armor. His jaw was clenched, shoulders rigid, eyes sharp with resentment. He ignored the bailiff's greeting, avoided eye contact, and slammed himself into position at the defendant's stand as if everyone else were wasting his time. Mr. Mitchell, Judge Caprio began, his voice warm and steady. I see you're here for a red light violation on March 15th. Before we review the footage, I'd like to hear your side. What happened that day? It was a question Judge Caprio had asked thousands of times, always with sincerity. Give people a voice. Listen first. Find the human story. But David Mitchell had no interest in being heard. He wanted to attack. What happened? Mitchell scoffed. What happened is your stupid camera system is rigged. This whole thing is a scam. Just another way to steal money from people. A murmur spread through the gallery. Judge Caprio remained calm. I understand your frustration. Let's review the footage together. If there's an error, we'll address it. The screen lit up. Crystal clear footage showed Mitchell's black sedan rolling straight through a red light without slowing. The timestamp, license plate, angle undeniable. Caprio watched once, then turned back to him. Mr. Mitchell, the footage is clear. But I also see something else. You've had a clean driving record for 23 years. Not a single violation. That's impressive. Help me understand what was different that day. Instead of gratitude, Mitchell exploded. Nothing was different. I drive that road every day. That light is timed wrong. This is a trap. And you sitting up there pretending to care, it's all fake. Theater. The courtroom grew cold. Judge Caprio leaned forward slightly, still gentle. I assure you, this is not theater. I've been on this bench for 40 years. Every person who stands where you're standing matters to me. But the law is clear. He paused. Given your record, I'm willing to reduce the fine significantly. Does that seem fair? It was more than fair. It was mercy. All Mitchell had to do was accept it. Instead, he chose arrogance. Fair? Mitchell snapped. You know what's not fair? People like you making money off hardworking people like me. You and your fake smile, your flag pin, your viral videos, you're just another bureaucrat pretending to be a saint. The bailiff stepped forward. Judge Caprio raised one hand, just enough to stop him. Mr. Mitchell, he said quietly, I'm trying to help you. Court can be stressful, but the law is clear. The fine is $85. I'm willing to reduce it to $50 if. And then came the moment that ended everything. You're nothing but a joke. The words echoed through the wood-paneled room. A woman gasped. The prosecutor stepped back, pale. Everyone understood instantly what Mitchell did not. He had crossed a line. And Judge Frank Caprio sat perfectly still. His hands remained folded, but the warmth in his eyes was now joined by something else, something heavier. Something like sorrow. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, almost soft, but it carried the weight of 40 years. Mr. Mitchell, he paused, and in that silence lived every case he'd ever heard. Every act of mercy. Every lesson about respect, responsibility, and justice, and everyone in that courtroom knew David Mitchell's case was no longer about a red light. It was about to become a lesson he would never forget. I've been called many things in my career, Judge Caprio said calmly. Some kind. Some not. I've been thanked, cursed, cried at, and yelled at. I've seen gratitude, rage, and frustration in equal measure. But in all my years on this bench, in every case I've heard, with every person who has stood where you're standing now, not once, not a single time, has anyone ever called me a joke. Mitchell opened his mouth, but Caprio raised his hand. Let me finish. The courtroom didn't move. You walked into my courtroom today over a simple traffic violation. A red light you ran clearly, on camera. And knowing you had more than 20 years of a clean driving record, I was prepared to reduce your fine nearly in half. Not because I'm a joke, Mr. Mitchell, but because I believe in second chances. Because I believe good people can make mistakes. Because I've spent my entire career trying to see the humanity in everyone who stands before me. Then his tone changed, not louder, but sharper. But here's what you need to understand. The bailiff straightened instinctively. Compassion is not weakness. Mercy is not stupidity. And kindness is not an invitation to be disrespected. Caprio paused, letting the word settle. You called me a joke. Let me show you what that joke can do. He turned to his computer. His fingers moved with deliberate precision. The courtroom was so silent you could hear every keystroke. The fine for running a red light in Rhode Island is $85. I was prepared to reduce that to $50. But since you've made it clear you believe this court is illegitimate, that my compassion is fake, and that my years of service mean nothing, I will apply the law exactly as written. He looked up. $85. Plus $35 in court costs. Plus a mandatory driver improvement course, $150 and 8 hours of your Saturday. The color drained from Mitchell's face. And there's more, Caprio continued, his voice now almost surgical in its calm. I am noting in your file that you were hostile and disrespectful to the court. That means any future violation, no matter how minor, will not be eligible for leniency. You will receive the maximum penalty every time. Mitchell swallowed. You had a chance today, Caprio said. You had a judge willing to help you. And you chose to throw it back in his face. Your Honor, Mitchell began, his voice suddenly small. I'm not finished. The words cut clean through the room. You want to know what the real joke is, Mr. Mitchell? The joke is that you walked into a courtroom where single mothers have had fines dismissed, where elderly veterans have been thanked for their service, where young people have been given second and third chances, and you decided the judge trying to help you was your enemy. Caprio's gaze didn't waver. That's the joke. And you're the punchline. He leaned back slightly, his hands folding again, the familiar calm returning, but now tempered with steel. But here's the thing, he said. I'm still going to give you a choice. Because that's who I am. Mitchell looked up, a flicker of hope crossing his face. You can accept the penalties as stated, $270 total, 8 hours of your time, a violation on your record, and a note in your file. Caprio paused. Or, you can apologize. The word hung heavy in the air. Not to me, he clarified. I don't need your apology. I've been insulted by better men than you. But you can apologize to this court. To the staff you disrespected. To the bailiff you ignored. To the people sitting behind you who came here to resolve their own problems and instead had to watch you throw a tantrum. Mitchell stood frozen. Pride and fear battled behind his eyes. And if you can genuinely apologize for how you conducted yourself, not for running the red light, that's settled, then I'll reduce your fine to $50 and remove the driver course. We'll all move on. The courtroom held its breath. 30 seconds passed. Then 45. Finally, Mitchell sneered. This is ridiculous. You're treating me like a child. This is exactly what I'm talking about, your power trip. You think your viral videos make you special? You're not. You're just another judge. And I'm not apologizing to anyone. The prosecutor closed his eyes. The bailiff's jaw tightened. Judge Frank Caprio smiled. It wasn't warm. It wasn't kind. It was the smile of a man watching someone destroy their own future. Okay, Mr. Mitchell, Caprio said quietly. You've made your choice. He turned back to the screen. Let me be very clear about what happens now. The driver improvement course is mandatory, Judge Caprio said evenly. $150 and 8 hours of your time. He paused, but we're not finished. When he looked up, the warmth that once defined his courtroom was gone. His eyes were firm now, unyielding. I am issuing a citation for contempt of court based on your behavior today. That carries an additional fine of $250. Mitchell's breath caught, and further, Caprio continued, I am ordering a psychological evaluation before you will ever be considered for leniency on future violations. Your conduct demonstrates unresolved anger issues that pose a risk to other drivers on the road. The courtroom remained frozen. That evaluation will cost $200 and approximately 3 hours with a court-appointed psychologist. Mitchell's face drained of all color. You can't do that, he stammered. I absolutely can, Judge Caprio said, cutting him off without raising his voice. And I am also entering into your permanent record that you were offered leniency and refused it through your own hostility. He leaned forward slightly. That means any judge in this state who opens your file will see exactly how you conducted yourself today. Caprio held his gaze. Do you understand what that means, Mr. Mitchell? Mitchell didn't respond. He looked as though the ground had disappeared beneath him. It means, Caprio continued, that you just made your life significantly harder, not because you ran a red light. People run red lights every day and walk out of this courtroom with reduced fines and a warning. His voice was calm, but unforgiving. No. You made your life harder because you couldn't recognize a gift when it was offered. You couldn't see compassion standing right in front of you. You felt the need to prove you were tough, that you couldn't be corrected, that you couldn't be shown mercy. Judge Caprio gathered the papers before him, his movements deliberate and final. The total amount owed is $720. You have 30 days to pay. He looked up. The driver improvement course must be completed within 60 days. The psychological evaluation must be scheduled within 45 days, and the results submitted to this court. His voice hardened. Failure to comply with any of these conditions will result in a bench warrant and the immediate suspension of your driver's license. A beat. Do you have any questions? Mitchell's mouth opened, then closed. His hands were shaking now, the full weight of his choices finally crashing down. I don't have $720, he said weakly. Then you should have thought about that before you called me a joke, Judge Caprio replied, not with anger, but with exhaustion. The court offers payment plans. Speak to the clerk. Next case. But Your Honor, please, I am Mr. Mitchell. The words stopped him cold. I gave you multiple chances. I offered you compassion. I extended mercy. And at every turn, you chose hostility. You chose disrespect. You chose to make this harder than it ever needed to be. Caprio's voice was steady. Those were your choices. Not mine. He gestured slightly. Bailiff, please escort Mr. Mitchell to the clerk's office. The bailiff stepped forward, placing a firm but professional hand on Mitchell's arm and guiding him toward the exit. Mitchell looked back once, his face a mixture of shock and regret. Judge Caprio was already reviewing the next file. As the door closed, the courtroom collectively exhaled. A woman in the gallery wiped her eyes. The prosecutor shook his head slowly. Case number 8, Judge Caprio called, his voice warm once again. Ms. Rodriguez, parking violation on April 2nd. Please step forward. An elderly Hispanic woman approached, clutching her purse nervously. Judge Caprio smiled, the genuine smile. Good morning, ma'am, he said kindly. Before we begin, how are you doing today? Outside, David Mitchell stood at the clerk's window, hands trembling as he stared at the numbers. Will that be cash or card? The clerk asked. Can I do a payment plan? Mitchell said, his voice cracking. $240 down, she replied. Then $80 a month for 6 months. There's a $25 processing fee. Mitchell closed his eyes. $745 for what should have been a $50 fine. As the card processed, voices murmured behind him. Never seen Caprio do that. Someone whispered. He threw away a gift. Another replied. Mitchell signed the paperwork with an unsteady hand. On the wall, he noticed a framed photo of Judge Frank Caprio surrounded by smiling faces. Beneath it, a plaque read 40 years of service. 40 years of compassion. Mitchell stepped out into the Providence sunlight, poorer, humbled, and permanently changed. 8 hours of his weekend gone, an evaluation ahead, and a record that would follow him forever, all because he couldn't recognize mercy when it was offered. Inside the courtroom, Judge Frank Caprio was gently helping an elderly woman with her parking ticket, because that's who he was. And one insult couldn't erase 40 years of compassion, but it could change one man's life forever.